So why is Bloodborne's world building good?
Blood building's world blooding.
Blood building's world burning. Yep.
is in my opinion one of the benchmark games, because of how well it all intertwines. Like there's no inconsistency in how Bloodborne deals with its world building. It takes everything into account, even the sort of stuff that you would typically think is sort of throwaway. Like for instance, the Chalice dungeons are used to fully enrich the world that you're playing in and enrich the experience that you're having in the main game.
Okay, quick shout out to the Chalice dungeons, because so many people ignore them, but they actually reveal more of Bloodborne's history and lore than any other part of the game, and it uses principles of archaeology to do so.
Which is sick. Oh my god, it's so sick.
When I realized this, I was like, what? I'm actually an archaeologist digging through tombs and learning things? What?
Tomb Raider? Take notes.
Yeah, eat your heart out, Tomb Raider. Tomb Raider meet Tomb Smasher.
Depths Delver. Yeah, the way that everything is tied together is just impeccable. It makes everything feel like you are really experiencing a fully fleshed out world where you get to experience that sense of wonder, that sense of what on earth is going on here, which very few games end up being able to capture particularly well, because it's a very difficult feeling to induce in a player, especially when that player is, aware that they're playing a video game, because why wouldn't they be? The way that Miyazaki has really just tied everything together, and it makes me wonder what his planning flow looks like, because it's got to be pretty crazy, is just it really is impeccable, and it's why the world building in Bloodborne is sort of the benchmark.
It sure is. It sure is. Man, I really want a Depth 5 history. Every time I look at this, I'm like, man, I want Bloodborne 2 that goes back in time and shows us what happened at Depth 5 age. Typical violent archaeologist portrayal, giving people the wrong idea about archaeology. Yep. And it's interesting you say that, Glenn, because while they call them... what are they actually called in the English version?
Tomb Prospectors.
Tomb Prospectors, thank you. They call them Tomb Prospectors in the English version. But the actual Japanese translation, I've been told, and I've been given a couple other ones, but the one I remember, even though people correct me slightly on it, the one I always remember is Tomb Smasher Opener.
Because why wouldn't you remember Tomb Smasher Opener?
Yeah, it's more of a direct, like, they're in there breaking and finding and looking for things. They're not being nice about it. They're not like, dusting and unearthing and studying. They're smashing and looking, going, oh, look what I found! Bringing this with me. And that's why you have all those statues around Bergenworth. You find them at all the depths and all the different locations of the game. They are studying them. So here's a quick little shout out that I was talking about when I was talking about the depth thing. They actually have a depth value on them. Here you can see. And how it works is the depth is literally how far you've gone down. It calls it depth. Even has a little icon to represent depth in the game. Even has, layers. Shows how deep you're getting. Oh, I'm a little off. There you go. There's the little icon there. Depth. You can see the lines below it. So depth 1 is like your immediate history, right? That's what you've just been built on top of. It's like a traditional city. But when we get down to 5, we get Thumuro Il. We get Lower Loran and Ailing Loran. We get the Iz dungeon. Like, these are the original civilizations that used to exist before Yharnam. They were the original inhabitants, the original contact with the Great Ones. There is a wealth of information buried in there, and it is fucking cool. Go looking, see what you find, because every coffin, every tombstone, every item left on the ground adds to world building.
Yeah, there is no missed opportunity in Bloodborne for world building. Just everything is involved.
You have to look at what items you picked up off the corpse, because those items will tell you who the corpse was and give you a history of the corpse. That's world building. That is masterful world building on a level that I never even considered possible. Hidetaka actually changed how I look at game design. You feel like that's
an oft missed opportunity.
100%.
Yeah, and there's some games that try and force it. A lot of games that are trying to be Souls-like will, just put basically the instructions for what you're supposed to do in item descriptions. Which is not really super great.
I was about to ask, what exactly did you mean by does current and past architecture. Yes, the architecture changes the lower you go. Each area has its own look and feel, and is made by different people and inhabited by different people and things. And even the enemies that you find in the area tells you about the area.
It really is a masterclass.
Hidetaka does not do what Hidetaka does for Hidetaka. Hidetaka does what Hidetaka does because Hidetaka is Hidetaka.
He does what he does because he must.
Yep. Characters.
So here's sort of a contentious topic, because the characters in Bloodborne are, some would say, weak. They don't have a lot of presence in the game directly.
Okay.
But and I knew that face was coming, which is why I added the directly. But if you again start actually learning about these characters, the direct influence on the game that they have is very suitable for the character. They play as themselves. They do what that character would do. And from there, like, once you start learning more about them, seeing how they react in certain situations, what they're up to, what items they have on them, you start thinking more about the context of this character in the game, and this ties into the world building as well, that then you get a fuller picture of what that character is actually doing. One of my favorite examples of this is Eileen the Crow. Like, you never really learn anything directly about Eileen, and she doesn't really, do anything in the game until you particularly follow down her storyline. But the wealth of information that you can garner from her weapon, even just her weapon, is kind of incredible. And the sort of rounding out of the character that happens as you learn more about them is phenomenal.
Yeah. I can't disagree with that in the least. I don't even know what to add to that. Characters have their own hopes, dreams, desires, wants, goals, emotions. Every character is unique and in-depth. Completely in-depth. And it's easy to miss them, and people that play Dark Souls and people that play Bloodborne for the first time, they never get the NPC interactions. They don't fully understand what the NPC is saying because they don't know the world. They don't know what's going on. They're kind of wandering around lost. And honestly, most of the people that you meet in these games are as lost as you are. There's a lot of shit going on that people just don't know about. And there is a very clear division when these characters are written about world knowledge and character knowledge. And they are very, very good at following character knowledge. They do not break that. They stick very close and very true to it. You can infer everything from them. My point about characters was going to be that the strength of the characters are potentially sacrificed, depending on how you look at characterization, for greater integration into the world building. I don't think their strengths are sacrificed. They're just not force-fed to you.
I can kind of see what you're saying, though, Glenn. Like, you don't get to experience the whole character unless you do the digging. But that's sort of the whole thing with Miyazaki games.
Yeah.
you have to go digging.
Yeah, it's the digging is what makes the difficulty valid. right? It's not easy to go get this information, but it's so well written and developed and built that it really makes you want the information.
And then you have a challenge to overcome to get it. And when you do overcome that challenge, the information is an excellent reward.
Yep. Yep. And it gives purpose to everything. It's why we play the game at the end of the day. The reason I play the game isn't necessarily the combat, even though the combat is phenomenal. It is the lore. That's what kept me coming back. Aspects of characters are not experienced firsthand. Instead, you find out who they are via experiencing the character's impacts on the world. You can experience some of it firsthand. It depends on the character. But yeah, some things just didn't happen in our time frame.
Yeah, there is a bit of, show don't tell going on. But at the same time, if you get invested in these characters and actually follow their storylines, then you do get a lot more showing. Like the character I mentioned earlier, Eileen the Crow, you do actually get to be with her as she influences the world around you and, take part in that influence. And your influence on her influence actually shapes the way that storyline goes.
Yep. Just choosing whether to hit something or not hit something with your weapon at the right time can change everything. So while you're never given a typical character choice that games give you with dialogue, like, do I want to go this way or do I want to go that way? You're given lots of choice in how you respond to events, which is a much more organic design and hasn't really been seen much since Fallout 1 and 2. It's really the teams that used to do that the most.
Yeah, and then under Miyazaki, FromSoft has sort of picked that up.
I agree with the idea that the player character will not experience everything about a given character because they had live lives before you show up and outside of what you experience at the same time. Yeah. And I know it's not a mark against Bloodborne, it's just an interesting discussion. So we get the topic and discussion discussed on here so that if anybody did think that way, they now know what we think. Yeah. Take that. You were wrong.
Differing opinion.
The characters are complete, thorough, well thought out and developed entities with their own hopes, thoughts, dreams, and desires. And from a person who likes writing stories for games and writing stories in general, the characters in Bloodborne are perfect. There's nothing contradictory in them. Everything that I want is explained. Just enough is left to the imagination to make me want to keep researching and learning. And the only argument that Pookie and I basically ever get in is when we discuss Bloodborne lore.
Yep. Because there's so many ways to interpret things. And again, tying into the world building and this idea of archaeology, it's up to player interpretation.
I'm sure there is a true and a wrong and a right somewhere in there, but they don't give it to us.
Yeah.
But I'm absolutely
they're not sharing.
I'm absolutely positive that when he wrote this, he knew exactly. Like if you were to ask him any question about the world, he knows the answer. Because you cannot make a world as complete as he has unless you can answer every question about it. You don't have to put every question into your game. You don't have to answer every question in your game. But before you make your game, you need to answer every question about your world so that you can make a complete game that's cohesive and fits together. That's why there's no rough edges.
If you're focusing on things like storyline, characters, and world building. If you're just making a beat 'em up, just go make a beat 'em up.
Yeah, then just go play Streets of Rage and make that game. Streets of Rage was a good beat 'em up, though. I enjoyed Streets of Rage. I played that game a lot. Storyline.
Good game.
Storyline was very, very, very good. Very, very good.
Whole streets, not just a house. So storyline. How about you lead on this one? Because I feel like you actually know the storyline better than I do.
if anybody watching right now on like the spectral realm of this video just saw my brain explode all over the camera, just like red chunks. Yeah, that's what happens when you try to explain the storyline in this game. But man, I don't want to give too many spoilers on this.
I mean, don't go into too many details.
Yeah, I don't want to go into details, but oh my god, like you need to look at all of the world building to understand the story. You need to look at all the characters to understand the story. You need to look at all of the enemies to understand the story. You need to look at the positioning of everything to understand the story. And then you need to do a college level dissertation of the history of the land in order to fully comprehend what actually went on. And then somebody's going to bring up something that you didn't consider and throw everything that you thought into disarray and make it completely false.
Though there is a criticism to be leveled against the storyline in Bloodborne, and it's that it falls victim to show don't tell. Like there's a lot of telling, there's a lot of learning, there's a lot of digging that you have to do to fully understand the story. And I think it could have been surfaced a little bit more without ruining the mystery. And if you don't do the digging, you don't really understand what is going on.
Yeah, you will be completely lost. However, you will be completely lost and greatly enjoy the game anyway.
Yeah.
You'll get to the end going, I have no idea what's going on, but this is amazing. And you'll want to know.
Oh, that final boss music was so good.
Oh, yeah. Yep. Esoteric and disjointed, but complete. That's a good way to say it. Bloodborne's story continues the fully body? Damn you, translations. Continues the full body integration of often disparate parts of game design and development. Only mark against it is that the story can be missed by players that don't seek it out. And I don't even think that's a mark against it. I've actually grown to be quite a fan of unforce-fed stories, because it allows players to ignore it if some people aren't into the story. Like I've seen people play JRPGs that don't even read, and they just skip through the text and want to get back to the gameplay and the combat and stuff like that, even though that is not why you play those games. People still do it.
Yeah, and it gives the player the option to choose how they want to approach the game, which is very nice.
Yeah.
I just like it is still without a doubt a good.
Oh yeah,
I am not arguing against that.
100% a good.
But I feel like it's like just a hair away from perfection.
Honestly, I think I would like it less if it was fed to me more.
I'm not even talking like fed to you more, just like a little bit more guidance. Because there's a lot of like on a first play of Blood Through, there's first play of Blood Through. Yes.
It's one of those days.
On a first playthrough of Bloodborne, there's a lot of like, well, I guess I'm just going to go find the next boss. And I think just a little bit more direction, something maybe a little bit more like the Crestfallen Warrior in Dark Souls 1 to give you some goals. Seek the Pale Blood is not very descriptive.
I'm glad that it's not descriptive. I'm glad that we don't really know what we're trying to achieve. The one thing I might change, and I think this would be a huge improvement on the beginning of it, is when you come up the stairs to Gilbert, have him calling out to you so that you can't miss him.
Yes, 100%.
And that will teach players to watch for the lights in the windows and to talk to people and look for because a lot of people go through all of Yharnam without realizing that you can talk to most of the houses and there's people in them that give you information.
This guy, my first playthrough, no idea Gilbert was there.
Yeah, that's probably the only thing I would change. And I don't even think I'd put that under storyline. I'd put that under player conditioning.
Yes, but it's part of exposing the storyline.
Yes,
right?
100%.
Like
it'll teach them how to find the story.
There's a little bit of like surfacing that I feel could be better. but it's still phenomenal.
Yeah, even if it could be better, it is still the bar by which we gauge every game.
The cues are perhaps too subtle. Yes, very much, especially with the interactable places in Yarnum. You basically just have to look for lit lanterns, and the game doesn't tell you that anywhere.
Yeah, and it's really hard to see, especially when you're fearing for your life from everything. It's hard to notice the lanterns by the doors. But if you do pay enough attention, you do hear like laughing and stuff coming from some of the houses when you get close to them. And you should eventually find one, but that doesn't mean it clues into you that you should go looking back. Because it didn't to me.
And
I didn't find one until the first Cindy, after we get through the main street of Yarnum, where the lady's laughing.
Yeah, and even then, like, that doesn't necessarily mean that there's any value in interacting with those houses. Like,
Yeah.
a lot of the houses in Yarnum are just flavor.
Yep. Super tasty, though.
Oh yeah, it's really good flavor, but it's flavor.
Well, the story does have a couple points that could be improved on. This is the bar by which we gauge game stories. Viewers, don't eat houses. Huh?
Little pieces at a time, you'll probably be okay.
You stick to bite size. Don't do like my old cat. Stupid cat. Had this awesome cat. He was like a 20-pound cat. He's a big fucker.
Big cat.
Big fucker. He beat up a raccoon. that's a big cat. We gave him a chunk of steak. That we were making steaks, and my stepdad had a big chunk of steak, so we just hacked chunk off and threw it at him as a gift. And it was like the size of his head. Cat was just like, oh my god, and tried to swallow it whole, sitting there with a piece of steak the size of his head, a little corner in his mouth, and like the rest of it out of his face like this, going as he tries to get it down his throat and swallow this thing whole. We're like, you fucking cat, what are you doing? Chew it, you dumbass. The story's tasty. Did I say the houses are tasty? Yeah, don't eat houses. Houses aren't tasty.
Eat stories instead.
Yeah, stories are tasty. Performance, okay.
Okay. It like
play it on a PS4 Pro or PS5. The PS4 would get a bad for frame inconsistency. The other two are limited to 30 FPS. Not GPS. Due to game design. Please give us a 60 FPS version and we will change this to good. Sound right?
PC port. Love a PC port.
I didn't say a 60 FPS PS5 version, just a 60 FPS version. Anywhere.
Yep.
Anywhere.
Yep, doesn't
on anything. I will buy it and play
on
it.
a platform. Exactly. If they do a 60 FPS version of Bloodborne on an platform, I will find a way to get that platform.
If they did it on the Switch, I would buy it for the Switch because I already have a Switch. And hey, Mole! I'd buy a Ouija for it. I don't think it would run 60 FPS, but I'd buy a Ouija for it.
If they somehow made it work on a Ouija board or on an Ouya, I would buy one. I would find a way to get it to play Bloodborne in 60 FPS.
Animation.
And this is a category that I tend to harp on a lot, but it's good.
It is. I love the animation in the game.
There's like
the animation makes the combat.
The only slightly whack animations is like snapping to interaction points, and that's whatever. It's a video game.
That is that way for user experience, and you would not play the game as smoothly or as cleanly if they didn't do that. So I'm glad they do. Yeah, too much smoothing.
The boss animations are incredible. The player animations are incredible. I love that they have different animations for different item interactions. The looting animation is kind of whatever. The way that enemies move is incredible. The way that the player moves feels super organic and smooth, especially the dash. Oh my god, I love the dash animation.
I even like the ridiculous roll animation.
I was gonna say the roll animation's a little jank, but
perfect.
Yeah, not jank in a bad way, just jank.
I think he was joking.
I think Mole's just trolling.
Yeah. and the way he says nasty, I'm thinking of just like the visceral animation, because that's pretty nasty.
Especially when you do it on a pig.
But honestly, one of my all-time favorite animations. And sounds.
Oh, and the sound. Oh.
The visceral attack
noise
is probably the best sound in gaming.
Yeah. Fully agree.
Good. The style is enough to convince some people to play the game. They nailed the Victorian Gothic feel perfectly, and I have never seen Elder Gods displayed so well.
And just a note on the technical aspects of no. On the technical aspects of the style of the game. The consistency is incredible. Like it's a very coherent design system that they're using. It's a very coherent visual style that they compose out of that design system. Everything has that gothic horror feel.
And like we were mentioning, every different civilization that we explore in the depths do have their own style. You can tell where you are based on what it looks like, and it all looks like Bloodborne.
I just had a thought that's like completely unrelated to anything we're talking about.
It actually looked like it hurt.
I wonder if the reason that Bloodborne looks so chunky is not that they didn't have performance budget for anti-aliasing, but because it's actually upscaled internally.
Probably. I wouldn't doubt it.
I mean, they did that same thing with Dark Souls 1, so it is a way to try and get free performance.
Yep. And I mean, honestly, performance is so much more important than anything else in these games. They're so technically tight tuned that any sort of frame drop just puts you at a complete disadvantage.
Interpolation can only do so much. This is very true. And
could only do so much. AI interpolation is getting very good.
It's getting very good, and they didn't have systems like temporal anti-aliasing just readily available and doable in, performant manners.
Yeah.
At the time when Bloodborne released. Plus, it was a fairly close to launch title for the PS4, which, they hadn't figured out how to work with the PS4 yet.
Yeah, it was a pretty early PS4 title, wasn't it?
I think it was like 6 months after the PS4 came out. Something like that. Because I remember I only bought a PS4 when Bloodborne came out, and I didn't buy it at launch.
Yeah, I only got it after PS4 Pro and everything was already out, so I was late to the party. It was actually Rage who went, "You've never played Bloodborne?" That's how we became friends.
Was it Bloodborne or Dark Souls?
Bloodborne. Bloodborne is what you told me to play when you found out I haven't played any of them.
Yeah. No, that was a good call. Getting you to play Bloodborne first.
I finished Dark Souls first, but I played Bloodborne first.
PS4 launched November 15th, 2013. Bloodborne released March 2015. Wow, it was like a year and 6 months.
Wow. There you go. Time is funny that way.
Still relatively early, considering that the PS4 had an 8-year life cycle.
Better than any other medium I have ever seen. And just for the record, I'm not going to put it in here because it's already long. When I'm saying the Elder Gods are depicted better than any other medium I've ever seen, I'm a big Lovecraft fan, and I've seen them all. It is the best interpretation of H.P. Lovecraft's work I have ever experienced, including reading H.P. Lovecraft's work. Creative guy, not a very good writer, and Hidetaka took the feel and the meaning and the organic origin of his work and implemented it so perfectly into Bloodborne that you can't even tell he took influence unless you're intimately familiar with H.P. Lovecraft's work, because it just fits so well into the world. If you're intimately familiar with Lovecraft's work, then as you're playing this game, you're going to go, oh, this is this! This is that! This is this! The whole way. And it's wonderful, and I can't recommend it enough. Musical score. You want to gush for a bit?
I mean, this one is pretty simple. It's the benchmark for atmospheric and cinematic soundtracks.
Got to answer Mole's question. Lovecraft's work was completely original and based only off of LSD, mushrooms, and some other things.
Lots of LSD.
Yeah.
Lots.
Yeah. He was also... Oh, what did he have? He had some sort of mental issue, too. He was self-medicating with the LSD. Night terrors. Yeah, it was
quite a lot of racism, actually.
The racism was kind of just a product of his time, unfortunately. I don't want to take anything away from how he was, but it was very, 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 very common in that time. Old Gods in Space or In an Unknown Realm was, 100% him. He invented the genre of cosmic horror. And that's why people tout his work. He was never a trained writer. He's not a very good writer. He's not a good writer at all. And his stories can be really hard to read, and they kind of bounce all over the place, and he's not super good at describing what he's trying to get across, which is why movies and all these other visual mediums have failed time and time and time and time and time and time and time again in order to recreate his work, because his work isn't an idea, it's a feeling. And it's really hard to recreate a feeling.
And I think that sort of sums up a lot of why Bloodborne is the way it is.
Yeah.
As far as like enemy design and stage design, because you just don't. There's no definitions. It's just, this is the sort of a gut feeling that he was trying to get across. This feeling of terror, absolute unadulterated terror.
He was a world builder, not a content creator. Pretty much. That's a decent way of saying it. He's a fantastically creative guy. Weaker storytelling abilities. Yep. If you're going to read one of his stories, read Shadows over Innsmouth. That's probably his best complete telling of a story. And that is the one that Bloodborne takes the most inspiration from.
Especially the DLC.
Yeah, basically the last half of the DLC is just Shadows over Innsmouth. But instead of Dagon, it's Shadows over Innsmouth. Thank you, Glenn. Yeah, it's a very, very, very strange story. And again, the reason his stories are strange and also so incomprehensible is because he's writing about his night terrors while on LSD.
And the another fun fact is that a lot of Carpenter Brutt's music videos were actually inspired by Shadows over Innsmouth.
Does not surprise me. I'm gonna get you the link here. Bot hadn't been spamming it like it should. There we go. Rage can put the music in now. Because
so
I know you can talk for a while on this one.
simply put, the benchmark for what did I call it? Atmospheric and cinematic soundtracks. Straight up, it is. That's all you really need to say about this soundtrack. The use of silence in most of the areas is incredible for building tension. The atmospheric noise and, sometimes, well, I wouldn't really call it music, but instrumental noise that they use in certain areas when you're approaching things of significance. Just incredible at sort of building tension and getting you invested in the situation that you're in. And then the boss fight soundtracks are, they're designed in such a way that they are your typical boss fight soundtrack, where you've got this, big orchestral piece and choir going on in the background, making everything feel epic, but at the same time it's incredibly dark and oppressive. And you get these incredible gothic choirs singing along to these boss fights, and the combination of the music and the boss fight itself is better than I have seen in any other video game. My favorite example of this, despite the fact that these are, not super great boss fights, is Cleric Beast and Vicar Amelia. The screams of a beast that has been twisted out of a human, and the cosmic horror that represents, along with the clashing of teeth and the scraping of nails against cinder blocks and bricks, then juxtaposed against the gothic choir in the background, and the combination of the two making something greater than the parts, the whole being greater than its parts, is just incredible.
Yeah, honestly, what comes to my mind whenever I think like the screaming and the slashing and the smashing and everything for upping the intensity of a fight to the point where you can't even focus on the fight and it kills you because of the sound is this. So screamy. So screamy. That was Orphan.
Orphan's another great one. But Amelia and Cleric Beast are the ones that just, struck me the first time I played Bloodborne. And yeah, at that point I was like, this is the best game I've ever played.
Amelia is actually Pookie's favorite fight too.
I wish those fights were harder.
Yeah.
I want them to last longer, but they both 30 seconds.
Not when you do it the way Pookie does it. She did a no-hit, no buffs on Amelia as well. No healing.
This does not surprise me. But I mean, you can also just...
Yeah. No buffs. Non-panel sounds are a bit too loud. You can barely hear you. No, she's not a masochist, Mole. She's just really fucking good at the game.
She is incredible at Bloodborne.
She puts me to shame. Easily. Makes me look like a noob.
Because she doesn't want to. She doesn't want to stream.
Yeah,
And that's fine.
she's very shy.
We just get to sit here and be envious of her abilities.
She does post videos into the Discord whenever she records them, though. She does record and post to YouTube. So she has her own YouTube channel, and you can go watch her kill a bunch of Bloodborne bosses on it. Very, very skillfully. Very skillfully. Base blood level 4, which means starting at the absolute worst starting class and never leveling once the entire game, and uses no buffs and uses no healing.
This is like Lobos level patience and skill.
The first time I saw her playing the game, I told her that she was going to spend more time making her character than playing the game.
You were wrong.
I was so wrong. I like to pretend that the fact that I said that is what drove her to do that, but it's not true. It was how pretty the game is. Voice acting.
There's just so much to love. Voice acting. Thoughts about voice acting?
There's not a lot of it, but what is really well done.
Yeah, and there's some concessions that were made. You can tell with the recording quality and how things were recorded, which is sort of a more technical sound effect-y sort of aspect to things, but at the same time, the performances are great. Some of them are a little cheesy. But there is thinking specifically of a Golden Ardeo boy when he finally achieves his goal.
Ardeo?
Yeah, when he kills the Cold Blood Queen.
Oh, you're talking about the executioner guy.
Yeah, the name with the person with the name that I can't remember.
Yeah, it's a really normal name. I think it starts with an A, like Arthur or something simple like that. Albert, something like that. But I like how much inference can be taken from the voice acting. That takes a lot of work.
Yeah, it's good voice acting. It is. It does. It conveys more than just the words and more than just necessarily the feelings. I don't really know what else to say about the voice acting.
even just Yosefka and fake Yosefka can pull the game up to a good.
Oh yeah, easily.
Does it fit the game? 100%.
Incredibly well.
Fits the game perfectly. Has tone and inflection. You can infer additional information from.
Some concessions were made in recording and playback quality for assumedly performance and size reasons.
Technical reasons, but this does not impact the quality. Impacts maybe sound quality, but not voice quality.
Yeah.
Different qualities, and we're going to give it a good there. And the sound effects get a good there.
Yes.
Visceral attacks are the benchmark for audio in games. Everything else is wonderfully mastered, unique, and conveys state information effectively.
The again, just to bring up the technical aspects specifically, the way that they feed you information about the game state based on the sound effects that they're using is one of the best examples that I've seen. It's something that Miyazaki's team is very, very good at. They make sure that the player knows what's going on at all times, and if you die, it's your fault.
Yeah, there's never been a moment in Bloodborne where I'm like, oh, wait, there was one moment. I kind of could have avoided it still. But there was one moment in Bloodborne where I was like, that sucks. Only one in the last playthrough. Where'd it go? Where'd it go? Anyway, you want to talk about the boss behavior? You did.
Sure.
I'm going to pull it up here, Glenn.
Pull up the clip. I want to see the clip.
Yeah, I'm going to while you start on the boss behavior and stuff.
Sure. So the way that the AI works with trash mobs in Bloodborne is very simple. It's set up more or less the same way that you'll see in most other games, where they kind of just, circle around you, try and find their opportunity to strike and then take it. There's a limit on how many enemies will be trying to attack you at a time. The other ones will just circle around you. It's fairly typical. The point where the enemy behavior really shines is the bosses, because the bosses use a combination of ranged-based attack picking and attack patterns that can be broken just about anywhere through their pattern. So you've got things like bosses that will start an attack pattern and then be able to stop midway because they've detected, okay, the player's no longer in range of this attack. I'm going to stop this attack pattern and start picking a new one after my timeout to allow the player to get some attacks in. Now let's watch this clip.
That elevator, okay. It wasn't fine. That was unfortunate. There was a little bit I could have done about that, but not a lot.
You could have
killed the enemy before getting in the elevator was what I could have done. But I was running from one of the whip and attendant things at the time, so.
So back to boss behavior, as I mentioned, they have the ability to...
Collision Resolution would like to offer its condolences.
Video games. They have the ability to change an attack pattern sort of mid-go, which is incredible. It gives the boss fight a lot more of an organic influence, makes them feel a lot less rigid. You've also got boss arenas that are designed in such a way to suit the fight itself.
It's amazing how changing the arena on some of the fights can change the fight so much.
Oh, yeah. Like the pillars in Bloodstarved Beast versus when you fight them down in the catacombs without them. It's a totally different fight.
Or
same with
Rom. When you fight her on the open lake versus when you fight her in the room with all the pillars.
Yeah.
They understand pillars change everything. It's just a line of sight thing.
The Ebrietas fight as well. Very different in a more constrained arena with the pillars and everything in the way.
Yeah. Mikolash's various specific environment changes are kind of neat.
You mean him running through the stage from you and fighting you in different areas? Because yes, big agree. Very cool.
Makes for one of the worst boss fights in the game, but still cool. I hate chasing him around.
I hate chasing. Once you know the pattern, it's not so bad. But I would still rather fight Mikolash any day of the week than Rom.
Yeah. I didn't say the worst. I said one of.
It's a big gap.
No, I put him pretty close down there with Rom. The running around is just as bleh as killing a bunch of one-hit spiders. Yeah.
So did you have anything you wanted to add on the topic of boss behavior, enemy AI?
It kind of branches into the mechanics as well, but it's because it's not just the enemy behavior, it's also how they designed the move sets together. Because as you were saying, like there are some moves that just look so much alike. Not just, I can open with this move and lead into either of these two moves, which is a wonderful design that keeps you on your toes and makes you pay attention. You can't just see the first movement of the boss and know the next 5 things he's going to do, which is nice. But then there's and I'm just suddenly drawing a blank. My brain just went, what was I on?
you were talking about how it's nice to have the ability to vary up attacks.
That's what I was going into. Having not just being able to go from this deck into 2 different attacks, but having 2 attacks that open similarly. The animations are almost identical, but they're 2 different attacks with 2 different movements, and there are faint tells, an eye glow, a position of a claw, things like this that really make you focus and zoom in and pay attention, and it just sucks you right into these bosses. Like, I can't blink. And you don't blink.
Pay attention.
And by the end of it, your heart's just like, you're like, I need to lay down. and just the ability to, like, the first time I killed Bloodstarved Beast, I swear I could feel my heart hitting my ribs. I thought I was going to have a heart attack. I had to lay down. And it's not just the audio, and it's not just the mechanics. It's the enemy behavior that forces you to pay that kind of attention.
And all of those things combined are an extremely powerful emotional experience.
And with all of this AI enemy behavior, not just on bosses, but with all the actual independent enemy behavior, it's not bad either. None of it ever really breaks.
No, it's not bad. Occasionally they'll get stuck on things, but I mean, is what it is. It's video games. Pathfinding is hard. But at the same time, like, it is totally fine. There is nothing wrong with the trash mob AI in Bloodborne.
I mean, even the bosses you can get to, roll into some tombstones here and there and stuff like that. But I mean, when it happens, you're not thinking, I can take advantage of this. You're thinking, oh my God, I got away.
Oh, I got away. I can heal now.
The game shines. Bosses are unique and lethal and reward paying very close attention to the specific fight.
And learning that boss's attack patterns, because there is high amounts of variance in each one.
Yep. Sure, Glenn, we'll use that. I'm guessing you that's you saying and not copying from somewhere else. Gross.
How do we clear the formatting?
We paste it into Sublime and recopy it. Plus?
Clipboard, please.
Typed that up yourself. We're going to use it, Glenn. I like that. It does say it well. Yep, Sublime text editor.
Sublime Text. It's a very, very performant text editor.
What I use. I didn't consider. We giving it a good? Is that an actual good?
The worst it could possibly be is
an okay.
A very high okay.
I mean, I'm totally fine with giving it a good. It's just we never give enemy behavior goods, and I'm psyched that we get to give a good for enemy behavior because I love the behavior in this game.
Yeah. No, I think the boss fights really kick it up a notch, and the enemies, and just to touch on trash mobs a little bit more, because I kind of glossed over them because I got excited about bosses.
Understandable.
The way that the trash mobs behave is very believable for the kind of mob that it is. A dog will charge you and try and get behind you. A guy with a rifle will hang back and try and shoot you with his rifle. He won't, path up to the predetermined circling distance and try and shoot you from there. He shoots you from across the map, and you got to find a way to deal with that.
Fucking Jura.
Jura's such a dick. But the way that the trash mobs behave, and we didn't even talk about enemy hunters. We gotta talk about enemy hunters.
We have to talk about enemy hunters on the enemy behavior, and it gets a good with that considered. 100%.
Yes. The way that the enemies behave is believable. Like the enemies that are walking up to you with their pitchfork or whatever, getting ready to stab you with it, they go, okay, this guy's trained to fight. I'm gonna hang back. No, now's the time to attack. Or if you get an enemy with a shield, they will walk right up to you and try and block with their shield.
They will be very, very passive about it too.
Yeah.
Bastards. You know what works really, really, really well on people with shields?
Big weapons.
Double R.
The
double
any weapons, really.
The R2 combo from the Kirk hammer.
I'm sure it does, but you can also double R1 them with the.
I know you can do absolutely
cleaver.
anything to them, but the double R2 combo works very well on them. They will regret blocking.
And I'm gonna say this because it's my favorite weapon, and it's the one I want to use in every playthrough because I think it thematically fits the game the best, and I think it is one of the most interesting weapons in the game because of its versatility. But the cleaver is overpowered.
Oh yeah, the cleaver is absolutely overpowered.
It's too good.
and it's like my go-to, basically. If I'm going for a casual run, I'm like, ooh, cleaver. Yes, give me my cleaver. I want my cleaver. But I've done it with a whip, and I've done it with a Kirk hammer, and I've done it with a holy blade now, so.
Ludwig's holy blade is quite fun.
If you want a really, really, really easy playthrough, play the holy blade. The whole game just becomes a joke.
Running R2s are real good.
Yep. But accessibility, it's another whack at the game.
Yeah, no, this is okay at best.
I think it's bad because I don't think there's any accessibility options at all.
Bloodborne accessibility.
You can't rebind keys. No key rebinding. No colorblind modes. The only things it has are subtitles. There's one other. No, you cannot scale FOV.
No. And
but it's a third person, so it's not a big deal.
It's less problematic.
Subtitles. There was something else I was thinking of.
DuckDuckGo, you are failing me. It
had something else. It was in there. It does something other than subtitles for accessibility. I'm sure of it. You have a friend who gets motion sickness if they can't scale FOV. You wonder if they could handle BB. Yeah, most of the time that happens in first person for people.
Yeah, it's typically less common with third person games. I am also very field of view sensitive. Anything under like a 70-degree horizontal field of view or a 55-degree vertical field of view really makes me nauseous.
I don't have that problem, thankfully. Does it only have subtitles? Is that all it does?
I can't find the options menu.
I think it only has subtitles. No key rebinding, no colorblind. He can, at least for some periods of time, because I've done Gorn with him.
Yeah, I am. Well, it's not low-end VR that we're using.
Yeah, I had the high-end model. So there's that to consider.
The first edition Vive?
Yeah.
I believe that you had? Yeah.
Yep.
And I think that's got like an 80-degree field of view or something.
But I did feel sick. I don't get motion sick, and I did feel sick on my Vive with a couple games. So Not every game. It's very much about what the game does. The BBC IIS Spacewalk one just about made me blow chunks pretty hard. Had to take that headset off. Pulling myself out of the capsule. Oof. Your 9:15 prediction was too few goods. Yeah, I think so.
It's not so much to do with the refresh rate, though the refresh rate is very important. It is actually the field of view that you get on the screens within the goggles.
Yeah, I think it only gives subtitles. Really. If you just can't play Bloodborne the way it is, then you can't. Oh. That's what else it has. Subtitles and controller inversion. It does have inversion, so I can play it.
Yeah.
Okay, but the mechanics get it good.
Yeah, no question there. There are no dumb mechanics in Bloodborne.
Where did we start? Let's address the number one issue that people always say with Bloodborne first. There aren't as many weapons as Dark Souls.
Yeah, but each weapon is 2 weapons.
And each weapon is actually unique. Like Dark Souls has more swords than Bloodborne has weapons, but they're all swords.
They all do the same thing.
They have slightly different moveset sometimes. Sometimes they're exactly the same animations, and they just tweak the stats a little bit. That's not a different weapon. It's just an upgrade weapon. Bloodborne, you don't upgrade your weapon. There's never like, oh, I found something better. There's no such thing. There's no weapon that's better than another weapon. Or there's no point in using this weapon because you've got that weapon. That doesn't happen.
I mean, if you're going for a very specific build and you have very specific gems in mind.
No. I'm talking universally.
There's an upgrade.
I'm talking universally. You have this weapon, you find this weapon, it's always better.
Yes, true.
That doesn't happen.
But the only way is if you have something very specific that you're going for, and then you go, okay, yes, I got the weapon I was looking for. Now my build is complete.
There are weapons specific to your build, and you do build for specific weapons. Absolutely. But what my point is, if you're building for a weapon, there's never a point where you're going to find another weapon and go, oh, this is the better version.
Yeah. No,
that's not a thing. It's not designed that way. And that's why there's fewer. Because they're all super viable and unique and original and different, and no weapon does what other weapons do. And that's awesome. and there's more original weapons in Bloodborne than any other Dark Souls.
Yep. They were far more creative in the creation of their weapons. Another criticism that I've seen quite a few people level at Bloodborne is the lack of a refilling healing resource, the ability to run out of heals. Hi. I've seen quite a few people say that is, something problematic, that it's something that, yeah, Ludwig's Holy Blade, yeah. But I've seen quite a few people say that that's something that's problematic, and they have to go back and farm blood vials, and yeah, so
technically you don't have to farm blood vials. When I run out of blood vials, I don't go back and farm blood vials. I just keep fighting the boss and stop healing. If I start getting myself low, if I'm down to like 30, 40, well, I'm like, if I use all my blood vials, I've only got one more attempt with all my blood vials. Then I stop using them until I've learned what's killing me and wasting my blood vials. And then when I get to the final phase of the boss, then I can start popping some blood vials, and usually I don't need that many to get through at that point.
Nope. Honestly, most of the blood vial usage is through the level getting to the boss.
Yeah, I don't use any on trash, really. And the only time I do is when I see some drop and I've got max. Items dropped. Item pick up. Yeah, more blood vials. Okay. Stat goes up and I get healed. I think it hammered home new habits for people that should have had them from the dart. Yeah, I mean, I'd agree that if kind of look at it this way, if you're not liking the way the game is playing, then you're maybe playing it the way you want to play it rather than the way it wanted to be played. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. Pretty much every game wants to be played its way.
I don't necessarily agree with not always topping off. But learn not to panic heal is a very good piece of advice.
You don't always have to top off. It is important to learn when to and not to top off. Sometimes a top off is a waste. I agree. Or the game isn't for a given player and it's okay to stop playing it. Absolutely. Not everybody is going to like it. Just because we consider it one of the finest designed games in the history of games doesn't mean it was designed for every person to play and enjoy. It just means it was impeccable and flawless in its logic and planning.
They met their design goals extremely well.
I had to learn that logic in D&D as a healer. I was wasting my spells, keeping the characters higher up, and then didn't have enough to revive them after they fell. Yep. Sustainability as a healer is a big deal, and that's not part of Bloodborne, but that is absolutely a similar mechanic. Yes.
Any sort of resource management is something that you will need to learn.
Yeah, it's actually very similar to healing in 40-man WoW, Mole. 40-man WoW, the spells could drain your mana pool very quick, and you couldn't sit and recover, and you had to work in teams, where the main tank would have 2 or 3 primary healers on him, and they would work in cycles, where they announce when they're backing out and stopping healing to regen mana, and let other people pick up in order to last for the entire fight. And people say that the mechanics of vanilla WoW were so simple and the raiding was much easier, but the raiding was actually much harder because of the amount of coordination and teamwork due to the size of the numbers and the length of the fight. It's just the boss mechanics weren't as complicated.
I was just going to say the same thing. The mechanics themselves weren't as complicated, but that doesn't make it easier.
Yeah, exactly. Just because the boss is easier to fight doesn't mean the game is easier. The difficulty came from playing your class and working as a unit. 40 people represents its own challenges. I miss it. You never went higher than 10-man, mostly 5-man, so you didn't have the expectation, but it makes sense. Yeah, see, in 5 or 10-man, you have to be able to heal by yourself the whole time because you're the healer. The healer. In 40-man, you've got 20 healers often.
And you need all of them.
like 10 or 20 healers wasn't an uncommon setup in a lot of fights. Having to rotate healing teams is a neat idea. It is. And people would think like, oh, you're not doing much, but no, you're managing. You're managing constantly. Like, oh, you can just stop and let other people take over. No, you've got to maximize your uptime so that they have time to regen mana too. It was a lot. It was a lot of planning, a lot of consideration. Please bring it back. Boss mechanics, we've talked a little bit about it already, how the attacks are similarly designed.
We still didn't talk about AI hunters.
Okay, so a cool fact for everybody on AI hunters. Very, very cool fact that not a lot of people are aware of because they weren't around when the game dropped. But when the game first came out, the forums were flooded with people asking if AI hunters were invading players. They're that good. People thought they were other players in their game. Now there are a couple hunters where you're like, okay, there, I know it's an AI.
Like the guy that you can just cheese off the ladder in Old Yarnum.
Yep. Are those people were that bad? No, they behave super realistically. Super realistically. I'm blown away every time I fight one, and I kind of dread it.
Queen Killer is a god.
Same with the Vile Hunter, Vile Blood Hunter. He's a dick. He's a dick.
Yeah, total asshole. Also Jura, although cheesing Jura is hilarious. So if anybody doesn't know the Jura cheese, Jura is the main AI hunter in Old Yarnum. and he's shooting a Gatling gun at you as you're running through the area, and you're trying to avoid his fire and somehow make it through the area. But then when you actually get to fight him, he's up on top of this tower where the Gatling gun was mounted, and it's a very tough fight because he's really strong, and you've had your resources drained by everything else in the area, and it's gonna be a struggle. But it turns out, if you have a pistol or a shotgun, when you get to the top of the ladder, you can just start mashing L2, and he just dodges off the side of the building and falls to his death.
You could actually also just charge at him and swing, and you typically just knock him right off.
His fight would have been great with a bit of ledge protection. Agree.
Yeah, he's a really good fight. I agree. You're really not even supposed to be able to kill him when you get there. He's supposed to fucking manhandle you. Because they really want to push the alternate path. No spoilers. If you just shoot, sometimes he just kind of takes it and slides off. Yep, that little hit to just that little bit of knockback, and he ain't Mega Man. He ain't Mega Man. That's his buddy down below is the one that I'm thinking of that is the most obvious non-human hunter. Because he always charges at you down off the wooden stairs and then instantly breaks aggro and turns around and walks back. Where this falls into your categories, but what about the fact you lose your currency/resources if you die and can't get it back? That is a mechanic. You can get it back, though.
Not if you die twice.
If you die twice, but he said if you die.
It's a mechanic that is punishing failure.
Yep.
It's a way to say, okay, you failed once, but as long as you learned something in this attempt, you're going to get all your money back.
Yep.
Like it'll be fine. But if you didn't learn anything and you don't make it back to that point, then that's your punishment. You lost your currency.
Yep. Yeah. And the key is it's 2 deaths for punishment. So you're never punished for not knowing something's coming and dying. You just are taught extremely. Extreme teaching. Hang them over a pit, and if they get the math question wrong, drop them in the spikes. They'll learn math fit quick, I guarantee you.
A big thing for me was you never thought to run past everything the second time. Always ended up trying to kill everything again and usually ended up failing. Well, then you didn't learn well enough.
Yep.
Like you don't necessarily need to run past things. Running past things is often more risky than fighting them, depending on enemy and placement. But if you know those enemies back to front, if you know exactly what they're going to do, you should be able to kill them every time.
I hope the thing where an enemy possesses your souls comes back in something. Yeah, that's a nice reference, because that is a unique mechanic to Bloodborne. Not all Souls-likes. This is really the only one I know where one picks it up and inherits it, and you've got to now beat an enemy to get it back.
Salt and Sanctuary.
Yes. Did Salt and Sanctuary come after Bloodborne?
I believe so, yeah.
Okay. That one also has its own mechanic where it manifests into a monster if there's nothing around. Slightly different, but yes, similar. Sekiro did not. There's nothing for you to gain back in Sekiro.
You just occasionally don't lose it.
Japanese. Neo. Neo isn't a Souls-like, and... Is there something left on? I think there is some. Yeah, you leave it on the ground and pick it up again in Neo. Yeah. Running is something you just learn over time. Yeah, the puppet jutsu uses the eye glow in that one. That is true.
And also the berserker thing, the red eyes.
Yep. But yeah, we're all really, really, really big fans of that mechanic because it teaches you by punishing negative behavior and rewarding
and
positive
then it gives
behavior.
you another chance. Mm-hmm. Like it doesn't just take it away. It says, okay, well, these are in an enemy or on the ground now. You got to go get them. But you gotta execute well in order to go get them.
Yeah, yeah. Fantastic mechanic. We have no complaints on the mechanics for a
Also,
thorough discussion. Please see the video. That's all. That's the best way to say it.
also the way that the way that parrying works, parrying and riposting and visceral attacks in general.
The fact that
and
viscerals,
backstabs.
the fact that viscerals don't become useless on bosses.
Yes.
The limb stagger mechanic.
Yeah, the limb stagger mechanic is excellent. I love the fact that they included a way for bosses to heal their limbs. Some of them canonically makes more sense than others. But the fact that they managed to make firearms make sense in a game that is supposed to be mostly focused around melee.
Yeah. They did use firearms perfectly. I absolutely agree. And the limb break is it's so nice because it gives a system in the game where these large beastly bosses are suddenly interactive.
Yeah, they don't just ignore you. You can do things to them.
It changes strategy, it changes approach. It actually, once you learn about the mechanic, makes the game easier. It does.
And we haven't talked about rally yet, but so we're
We'll
going
get
to do that. But the way that the limb break works and the fact that it can recover also. Carl has limb break and teaching you that rolling and unlock is a viable option. Yeah, absolutely. Dodging that explosion. But it teaches you to be more aggressive. It encourages aggressive play, which is really what Bloodborne is all about. And the way that you get rewarded for that aggressive play is by staggering a boss or staggering an enemy or, breaking a limb, giving you a chance at a visceral attack if it's the right limb. And if it's not the right limb, then you have this other opportunity to get more damage in, and you can chain limb staggers and all sorts of amazing things that encourage you to be up and in the boss's face playing the video game. Don't run away. Play the video game.
Interact with the boss. And if you've never tried to make a boss fight before, it is so hard to make a difficult interactive boss. Oh my god.
Yep.
Oh my god.
Yep.
The amount of work that went into these bosses just staggers me. So many times I've been playing the game and I realize in my head the amount of effort and work that's gone into creating this curated encounter, and I just kind of stop moving and become awestruck and the boss kills me. I thought you were supposed to stagger the boss, but it's the boss who is staggering you. Yeah. The boss's design staggers me and I get mauled. It is actually
Brain
that
stagger.
good. If you don't understand all the stuff that goes into these bosses and what actually it takes to make a boss design of this level, then I could easily see not fully understanding the gravitas of the situation and just rolling through it and going with it. But when you know what they actually went through, it's just like, luckily they have Dark Souls. Yeah, completely non-interactive bosses.
Definitely. So you bring up an interesting point, Dank. Certain things, people hating certain things about the game because it's not Dark Souls, and it is a very different game. And people like to roll, Souls and Bloodborne together and say, Soulsborne games. But there's an entirely different approach, and it's the reason why I don't like Dark Souls 3 very much. The boss design and enemy design in the Souls games is more about backing off. It's about getting away. It's about And this is at its peak in Dark Souls, running around an arena and waiting for your time to strike. Like you just run around the boss arena. And you wait and you wait and you wait and you go, okay, now I can attack. And you run around the boss arena and you go zoom, 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 and you go, oh, okay, now I can attack. Whereas the idea in Bloodborne and in Sekiro is that you are constantly engaging with the enemy, except for Ebrietas and Rom. But the goal is to be constantly engaging with your enemy. You got to go play the video game rather than just running away from the thing that you're supposed to be interacting with.
I see some people smacking it against Dark Souls facade, thinking it's the same so they can... Oh, you mean... I honestly don't even think Bloodborne bosses have that much health.
They need more health. They need to last longer. You can kill them too fast.
If you really min-max it, you can just shred them. So there is pellets. Serrated damage, I'm going to not put in that because you're never taught about it, ever. Anyway,
you are. If you read the actual descriptions of the weapons,
I'd still say that's not teaching you about it though. They hint at a mechanic that's never actually introduced as a mechanic. You have to look into it and experiment a little bit and just notice that you do more damage to some things, basically.
I guess.
Want them to last longer, just do a BL4 and progress. Yep. Says it does more, but it's not a tutorial. Much like the rest of the game, it's a bit mercurial. Yeah, I know it says it does more, but the problem is with so many games, they say something like that, but don't actually implement it unless you see like a plus X damage or something like that. You never see that there's a plus 20% damage on it. That's not a number or an information that you're ever going to get.
And then there's another thing. People focus on damage way too much in Bloodborne. Like, damage actually isn't all that important.
Just don't get hit. Your friends approaching the game the same ways as Dark Souls seems fine to me. Yeah, I mean, they're welcome to. They're not going to have a good time doing it. Like
when Zeri tried to play Sekiro like Dark Souls.
Yeah. People got to stop assuming that FromSoft is a one-trick pony. They're not. And their games are very different. Just because they look a little similar, their games are very different. Though a lot of Dark Souls knowledge will take you fairly far in Bloodborne, you really have to learn to stop dodging backwards and start dodging forwards. And it's a small but a massive mechanical difference. Don't disengage, engage.
Yeah, whereas, like I mentioned before, Dark Souls is all about being able to time your attacks and knowing when is your opportunity.
When in doubt, roll backwards. You'll be fine.
Bloodborne, you go make your opportunity. you go make it.
Yeah. Another thing that we should address in mechanics before we move on is roll catches. Because the roll catches in Bloodborne are beautifully designed.
And we still need to talk about rally.
Yes, we will get to rally. But first... roll catches. Because as we said, everybody that came from Dark Souls into Bloodborne had been trained by that point to roll backwards. That was how you played Dark Souls. If you played a lot of Dark Souls, you got into a crappy spot, you rolled backwards. And you were okay. Right then and there. Whoop, hey, I'm safe. Then Bloodborne came along, and they introduced a fine little piece of design in the mechanics with forward movement in boss attacks. And you can see that they started learning and understanding this when Manus came around.
Manus's roll catches are brutal, though. They are nowhere near as forgiving as Bloodborne's.
No. Manus is a dick. But you can see that they started grasping this by the end of Dark Souls. By the end of Dark Souls, they saw that it was the same strategy on every single boss, and they designed the last boss in the DLC that if you did that, he kills you. Not hurts you, he kills you. That's it. You're done.
Which is not super great for player conditioning.
I did not enjoy the boss at all. I'm glad he died. I didn't take I'm sure some people took a lot longer to get him, and I'm sure some people got him quicker than me. But
I did him on my first playthrough. It took a long time.
But he's a dick, and I did not like it. I more enjoyed the Bloodborne fights. I find them more rewarding because I can take matters into my own hands. Rolling into attacks and being close is lovely, but much like this game makes you face your fears and normalize horror, they reward you for going through things almost symbolically. Yes, that's why they make the bosses so scary. They try to make you scared and back off. And then they kill you if you back off. It plays on emotions, it plays on fears, it plays on humanity. And this is one of the reasons that we call the game one of the most well-designed games ever, period. Because it kills you with your own emotions. It tries to create feelings in you, and then when it creates them, it uses them against you. And it does it effectively. So I guess the only people who wouldn't like this game are sociopaths.
Well, they would definitely have an easier time with it. That doesn't mean they wouldn't dislike it.
That's true. That's true.
Wouldn't like it.
Man, VR is scary. It shows sociopaths for who they are. I was at my brother's house, and there was a guy there that he had never met, I had never met. Just a friend of a friend kind of thing showed up. He had never tried VR before. So we put him into, of course, Plank Simulator.
Yeah, okay, yeah, that's where I thought you were going.
Yeah. And he puts the VR on, and he goes up to the top of the elevator, and he walks out onto the plank and goes, "Oh, cool," and just walks off. And I was like, oh my God, this guy is a psycho. He had absolutely no care of self-preservation. His brain didn't have any risk or anything. Like, yeah, let's just walk off.
Well, and it's also a degree of immersion, right? Like, the first time I got on the plank, I was like, nope, fuck that. But then after I had played with the flight controls for a while, I was just like, okay, yeah, I'm going to jump off the plank.
Yeah, but there was no immersion for it. It was the very first time he had ever put VR on. He went into the elevator, and his first instinct was to walk off the plank. Just casually, just whoop.
Some people just don't get that immersion. Like, I have a friend that we got to stream Amnesia: The Dark Descent in the dark on his own for his first playthrough, because that game is spoopy. And he just wasn't immersed and basically just tried to break the game the whole time. It's just how some people are.
I'm still convinced that guy's a psychopath.
But on the note of psychopaths, we need to talk about Rally.
Yes, because Rally is a psychopath mechanic.
Absolutely. And it's a mechanic that is something that is it's something that is so very different in the ethos of Bloodborne versus something like Dark Souls or even Sekiro to a degree, where in order to keep attacking, you keep attacking. Like you never back off, and it ties into the ethos of Bloodborne, and being a beast, and there's this the animalistic rage that a lot of the enemies feel, that you just keep slicing. You stop caring about your health pool. You just keep attacking in order to regain your life, which is one of the things that makes health the most powerful stat in Bloodborne. Because if you just keep attacking, you just keep regenning. As long as you have enough stamina, you just keep going.
The other thing that makes health so completely overpowered in Bloodborne is that blood vials heal 33%.
Yes. Percentile heals are a big deal.
The idea of being a being that absorbs blood through our pores makes us the Eldritch Horror. Yeah, well, that ability came from the Eldritch blood. So, is what it is.
Eldritch Horror.
Yeah. There's also a lot of interesting discussion I don't want to get too into it, but a lot of interesting discussion around how the blood heals and why the blood heals, and specifically who the blood is able to heal on that level. And some believe that while the blood is intoxicating and addictive and healing for many, in Bloodborne, the reason that it restores your ability to fight is because you're a dreaming hunter, and if you read the blood, it says it restores the will to fight, specifically. Dark Souls, you're a zombie. Bloodborne, you're a vampire or a werewolf. A vampiric werewolf, even.
Kind of both.
Yeah. So does that mean in Elden Ring we're a mummy? But Mom!
This giant open world map and you're stumbling along.
Are we done with mechanics now?
We talked about rally, we talked about viscerals, we talked about parrying. We didn't specifically call out backstabs, but I love the way that they changed backstabs to be something that you really need time to take advantage of rather than just
get behind them and win.
Yeah, just, instantly triggering it after
the big thing
180.
The big thing about that is it allows the implementation of the backstab mechanic onto bosses, because now it's a timing thing.
Yeah.
Whereas the backstab mechanic in Dark Souls, which go up behind him and hit R1, isn't implemented on any bosses because it would break bosses.
Oh yeah, you can just chain backstab. Like it's the way that most people kill Havel their first time.
Yeah. So at that point, we can even take another shout out for Bloodborne in changing the mechanics in such a way that the mechanics stay much more uniform between enemies and bosses. The systems don't change very much anymore, which is lovely. The big thing with Dark Souls for me is every boss was completely different than the enemies. Their mechanics and everything just change entirely, and you can use some of the same stuff, but you're really learning a new encounter.
Yeah, mechanically the game doesn't change. You're still playing the same video game. It's just now there's a big scary guy to go fight, which is beautiful, beautiful mechanical design. What about the summoning system? It's mostly the same, but the introduction of passwords and it being location-based, not sign-based. I love passwords. I think they're wonderful. It being location-based annoys the hell out of me. That's what I have to say about that.
Yeah. Multiplayer is always an afterthought, as I see it in these games, and implemented in such a way that it makes sense to the world and is not convenient to the player.
Except for Dark Souls 2, where they broke a bunch of really fun things for the sake of PvP.
Yeah, we don't talk about Dark Souls 2. Dark Souls 2 wasn't made by Hidetaka.
I like Dark Souls 2. It's a fun game.
It's a fine game. It just wasn't made by Hidetaka, so it doesn't follow the same rules Hidetaka does.
Yeah. It's a good game. I enjoyed it. I like it. It's just not a Hidetaka game, so kind of is what it is.
It was made by the creator of Kingsfield, for those unaware, and if you compare it to the Kingsfield games, it's a great Kingsfield game.
Oh, it's a wonderful Kingsfield game.
By far the best Kingsfield game.
I want them to do a new Kingsfield game. I think that'd be fantastic.
One day they'll fix their netcode for online that clearly gave Deus an advantage in Twisted Metal 2. Actually, I did all of my Twisted Metal 2 learning on console without net play. Thank you very much. And I still kicked that fucker's ass. Actually, one time I went to a house party and they had Twisted Metal 2 on the console. So I sat down and I unlocked Minion and I gave everybody else in the house the ability to play Minion, and they got to choose what vehicle I played. And I just did that all night. And I still won every match. But of all the games they've released, why haven't they redone Twisted Metal? From didn't do Twisted Metal. FromSoft has no role in Twisted Metal. Twisted Metal is long gone, and the company that owned and made the original Twisted Metals sold it off. It's changed hands 3 or 4 times, and the team is long gone. There's no more Twisted Metal. If you loved Twisted Metal and you have a real hankering for something similar, the only hope you have is to go and play Rogue Trip if you haven't. Well, they have redone Twisted Metal many times. in lots of different forms. They were just garbage.
Poorly.
That's why you didn't hear about them. Like V8 and all those, like, they're in the era of Vigilante 8, there was like 1,000,001 games that came out.
Well done, Dank.
Very impressive, yeah. I loved Guitar Hero, but I was not that good. Once again, god dang Pokey. The only person who I ever saw complete Rush Spirit of Radio on the hardest setting.
You see, the only way I could play the Guitar Hero games is by playing on the hardest setting, because everything else was too different from how you would do it on an actual guitar.
Yeah, once you got used to the higher settings in Guitar Hero, it was actually much harder to go backwards, because all of a sudden they're taking out the in-between notes and you're trying to play them. Even blacked out, you can do stupidly well. Yeah, it would take me a little bit. I can do okay, but my arms will get sore if I start now, because I haven't done anything in so long. I've wasted away. I think we can move on. I think bugs are good.
The only bugs that I can think of are like multiplayer and map related. Some of the skips that they patched fairly early on. The load times were atrocious.
Yeah, if this was a release review, it would be okay.
Yeah, I can't think of anything that would stop it from being a good to go and play it now.
Yeah, glitches are different than bugs, because typically glitches are things that the player has gone out of their way and set things up to perform. And because games have to take shortcuts, you're always going to have glitches like that in every game. Until we have the power to fully recreate the world, there's going to be glitches.
And the editing and hacking of things, thanks to Dark Souls 3, is the whole reason why there's starting to be a modding community for Bloodborne. Granted, you needed generally a base PS4 on one of the first firmwares that they've managed to jailbreak on to do it, but there's a modding scene now for Bloodborne, which is incredible.
60 FPS mod was beautiful. Can't believe it ran that well on Pro. They got to just work with the people who made that and release it. Do it. I'd pay for it. In terms of bugs, they fixed it. Yep. You should not encounter any bugs in a normal, casual playthrough. We don't count trying to break the game and breaking it as a bug, because if we try to break a game, we can break any game.
Do not play on an unupdated copy. No, because every time you die, you have to wait for 2 minutes.
Yeah, I've heard about it. Thankfully didn't experience it. RNG is a good.
Yep, loot tables. That's about it.
Limited to loot tables. There is procedural gen if you explore a lot of Chalice dungeons, but this is side content and does have an initial curated instance, which I think a lot of people forget about and overlook when they're talking about the procedural generated Chalice dungeons.
More like blood boring.
God damn it, Pseudo. That's all I have to say to that. Less than 3k total potential dungeons. Bloodborne in your face and no item description. Yeah. That would be unfortunate. The item descriptions is a nice change.
Minutes.
The item
2 minutes.
The item description is a nice add. It is, and we talked about Bloodborne's loading screens when we did our loading screen panel. So if you're interested in that, go check out the loading screen panel where we talk about the history of loading screens, how they evolved, and why they are the way they are. The control is good. Good.
Yep.
The game never assumes. anything. There is very, very little button collision. For the most part, the character will always do and only do exactly what you have told it to. And you hear me bitch about this all the time, so I won't go too much on it, but yeah, don't assume what your player wants to do. It was one of the things that drove me absolutely batshit fucking crazy about Witcher 3, and one of the reasons why I just can't play it. The combat is so... You're 20 feet away from an enemy, you hit attack once, and you float 20 feet through the air and smack them. Like, I did not tell you to float 20 feet and smack the enemy. You're now in a position I don't want you to be in. I just wanted you to swing your sword. That's it. When I push attack, just swing the sword. Don't try to figure out what I'm attacking, because there has been times where it tries to figure out what I'm attacking, and instead of attacking the enemy directly in front of me, attacks the enemy 15 feet beside me, and now I'm way the fuck over there when I want it to be over here, and all I did is push one button.
Queued actions, though.
Yeah, whatever. Don't button spam. Queued actions just punish your button spams. Witcher 2 was better about that, but their combat isn't their highlight.
No, the combat has never been a highlight in the Witcher series. But queued actions is really, really annoying for me. Like, the queued gestures, I think, is the worst.
Yes.
Because you're like spamming X to get through a gate or something. You're like, come on, faster. And then your character opens the gate and goes... brushes off their coat.
I always get the... You saw it like probably a dozen times on my playthrough. It just kept randomly happening. Because it uses motion control. If I'm just holding X and I move my controller a little bit, it'll just do an emote, and it could entirely get you killed. However, I have accidentally done the sitting emote before while fighting a bagman, and gotten to watch him like kick over my head 5 or 6 times before I try to get up. Next time you fight a bagman, if you've never done it, just sit down and watch the bagman try to hit you. There's only one attack he has that can.
the big bag slam is the only thing that hits you.
Gotta save more points for Deus to look at and give me a fun review of the current AC games combats. Assassin's Creed or Armored Core?
I can do that for you. I can do that for you right now. Boring. Parry and win.
It's probably not even a tight parry time.
No, it's extremely easy.
So, as we have said all along, Bloodborne, good game. Yeah. A bad in accessibility and okay in performance, and every other category got a good.
It's probably the best video game made to date.
I would agree with that. I would wholeheartedly agree with that.
When we were first talking about Bloodborne, I remember saying to you that the Bloodborne DLC is one of the finest pieces of gaming content I have ever played. And it holds true.
The best game I had ever played, the best game created for characters and, playthrough path and thought and connecting pieces together, all the interconnectivity, all the loose ends tied up, nothing frayed, nothing anywhere out of place in the game, was Chrono Trigger. And throughout the rest of the SNES life, which was not very long, no better games. PlayStation 1, I don't think there's a single game on the PlayStation 1 more completely made than Chrono Trigger. I just don't.
Or the PS2.
Or the PS2.
Frankly, really good library. There's a lot of really good games on the PS2.
It had a large library. There's a lot
there was a lot of trash as well
games on the PS2.
But there were quite a few really good ones.
There were. I'd honestly consider the PS2 weaker than the PS1, all in all. Personally.
Yeah.
The PS3 starts getting close. Dark Souls is a damn good game. But it's really not till Bloodborne that all those loose ends come together, and I would say it truly actually replaces Chrono Trigger as one of the most thought out and complete games. This is... If you haven't played Chrono Trigger, you gotta go play that. If you haven't played Bloodborne, you gotta go play that. And if you don't like Bloodborne, I understand. It's not for everyone, unfortunately. It is difficult. However, if you approach this game with an understanding that you're going to die a lot, you will learn and you will stop dying and you will enjoy it.
It is, like we've spent the last couple of minutes saying, one of the best games ever made. If not the best game ever made.
Yeah. Pookie died more than I've ever seen anybody die in a video game when she started playing Bloodborne. Because she had played 4 JRPGs in her life.
That was her whole gaming experience.
Yeah. And she just started learning. Granted, she has a pretty good coach.
The learning may have taken longer without the coach, but the ability to become better at the video game is almost unmatched, except for in Sekiro.
Yeah, Sekiro gets so easy once you understand the game. Oh my god. But, okay, so we're pretty much done. We don't even get to talk about the the other stuff I wanted to get to, because we literally did 2 hours of Bloodborne. Which I'm not surprised.
And we could probably keep going if we didn't have a time limit.
Yep. So as I said, Pookie had a really good coach in that I was always on hand and she could show me her problems and I could actually explain to her what's going on. So hit us offline, but for the people actively in chat now, so an idea I've been playing with a while is doing a panel of like Soulsborne, Seki Soulsborne, kind of that thing, coaching. Where if people want to get better, you can upload some gameplay where you've been struggling and we can review it and pick apart the issues in your gameplay. You almost threw up.
That's not good.
Is this the... Why almost throw up to that? That's just... Oh, that was bought by design on the link.
Because you suggested I try playing these monsters. They're really good games, man. They're really good. They are punishing, but they are fair.
Yeah, so if there are anybody out there that is interested in these games and has played some, if you're interested in capturing some of your footage, we'd love, absolutely love to review and help you find the shortcomings and where the mistakes were and help you get through it. I would love to do a whole session of just different people's video and talking about the little mistakes that were made and how to improve your combat. I played Devil May Cry 1.
You should try 5. 5's pretty good.
I guess. Every time I see somebody play them, everything about them tells me I'm not really going to like it.
Yeah, and that's fair. I think 5's on Game Pass, though.
Try to do something like that for the sake of the channel. Well, don't torture yourself, but if you actually want to play the games and get better, then we're really interested in helping you. We would love to do a panel of just helping people improve.
I'm not on Xbox.com load faster.
I did tell you not to torture yourself. I'd never tell people to torture themselves. We play these games because we enjoy them, Mole. We're about the enjoyment of games. You know this.
No, it is not on Game Pass, unfortunately. That's too bad.
What is not?
But yeah, Devil May Cry 5. 4 and 5 are both really quite good. On the higher difficulties, at least. They get very mechanically demanding, and I enjoy them quite a bit, but I can also understand you not liking them very much.
Yeah. I'm not a fan of like lots of combos, and it takes too much from fighting games in my mind. I'm not a fan of that layout.
That's fair.
You're not having fun, then the game failed you. No, No. Everybody finds different things fun. It just means you played a game that wasn't really meant for you.
Targeted at you.
Yeah.
Like, I would say most people probably shouldn't play Escape from Tarkov.
Yeah.
But I have a hell of a lot of fun with it.
It's not even a failing, though. It's just a taste. But I don't die over and over. I rarely die. I die way less than most people in these games, Mole.
It's a shame. I wish we could unlearn, go back and experience them for the first time again.
Game doesn't mean fun either. That's true. Doesn't speak to you or connect with you, it failed you. We're getting kind of pedantic, but I don't think of that as a failure.
Yeah, there are games that are not to your taste. That's not necessarily a failure on either part. Like, I recognize that a lot of games that Deus and Pseudo enjoy are really well-made games. They're just not for me. And that's fine.
Pseudo's been here the whole time, Mole. He's just real busy with some schoolwork, and schoolwork takes way higher priority than panel. Even though we love doing this. Schoolwork is something that is super important. Though we look forward to Pseudo being back.
True, we do.
Nexting the weeks. We'll get there. Deadline stuff. Yeah, well, deadlines are good, though. Deadlines incur stress, which helps the body focus. Small amounts of stress are healthy for you. Just don't get overstressed. That's the bad one.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to order some pizzas now for dinner.
Ooh.
Yeah, I think pizza sounds really, really, really good. Ooh. Spinach, mushrooms, red onions, red peppers, tomatoes, and pineapple. Sounds damn tasty. Okay. So, Bloodborne review under us. Okay, so this is something I'm working on right now before we get done. And that is for all of the events, new subscription, resubscription, gift sub, host, raid, follow, all that kind of stuff. I need to brainstorm what you guys think of, because I need to come up with an animation idea so I can have somebody make the alerts. But I don't want it just to be my mind, because my mind don't work the same way everyone's mind does. We should play Bloodborne as a community one day. Yes. Okay. So if you... I'd love to do a brain jam session, maybe not on stream, but please hit me if you have any ideas, and I'd love to start getting this planned so I can give the person the money and get them creating it so we can get the whole uniform look down. That includes, frames for our images here and a proper background all self-created on this page and relay things out, and there's a lot of work to be done. So we need some brainstorming. So if you're interested in a brainstorming session with me, hit me on Discord, let me know. We'll plan something, maybe not on stream, maybe on stream, depends how many people want to do it. Let's get that working. And Pookie is totally in on it, Dank Souls. She wants to do it too.
And if I may, I would like to plug the fact that I'm going to be working on RageBot full time for a little while here. So hopefully soon we're going to be able to use RageBot to display all of these animations, all of these notifications, etc., etc. I'm going to be doing so live on stream, planning on doing it weekdays from 11 a.m. Pacific until 3 p.m. Pacific. And it'd be great if you'd come join me. Maybe learn a thing about programming. Maybe learn me a thing about programming.
We all have things to learn. We'll talk about it offline. I'll spin up a little channel for us to discuss that we can pull in Rage and Pseudo in. And then the final announcement before we get off for the day, we have a website now. GamesByDesign.ca is up. You can go check it out. It's not a ton of stuff up there, but it's a functional website, and it does have some stuff up there. So go hit it, go see it. We're going to get some links and stuff coming back to the Twitch. We'll have maybe even embed the Twitch in it somewhere so that we can get some back and forth channel going. That's coming. Right now, you can get all of the game reviews on there. You can get information about good indie devs. If you'd like to see some indie devs listed, we want to tout those indie devs. We want to give them more voice. So, let us know if there's stuff you don't see on there. But thank you, Mole. Mole is our webmaster. He has done a ton of work on that.
Thank you, Mole. Thank you, Mole.
It looks fantastic. It was done super quick, and we absolutely, absolutely appreciate the volunteer. This is so much work. We couldn't have done it without you. You're a fantastic member. You make our lives easier every day, Mole, and we just enjoy having you around. So, with that said, thanks for hanging out today. I hope you enjoyed the Bloodborne talk. And until... I'm probably not going to stream later tonight. I want to get better. I'm feeling mostly better, but I want to get better. So I'm probably going to just relax and try to fully heal so that this fever and stuff doesn't keep cropping back up. 2 hours is enough for today. So until probably Monday, when we'll get killed for 8 hours in that same arena on Doom Eternal.
Doom Eternal hard game.
That is Princess Peach hanging in the background. It's a sprite from Super Mario RPG. Yes. Nope. She's got her hands tied behind her back, and the rope would be tied around her waist. Yeah. Pookie's not that dark.
How did I know that was coming?
How did you not? So, until Monday then, I'm Deus.
And I'm Rage.
And may all your shots be headshots.